up, Seattle? I just drove up here from Portland into your beautiful city. So for the last 10 years, I've made it my job to listen to the voices of women from virtually every country in the world. And as you might imagine, I live and breathe the reality of many of the stories behind the headlines. And I feel what many of you feel when you hear them. The stories of child marriage, the acid burnings, the increase of mass rape, everyday street harassment, the stoning of widows, the rape of infants, the burning of schools, the abduction of schoolgirls, the shooting in the head of little girls who just want to go to school. But I'm here tonight to tell you a very liberating truth. We don't have to be wringing our hands with this heavy sense of responsibility of how we can help these women around the world. The truth that I've learned over all these years is these solutions actually already exist. And they exist inside of women, and they exist between women, and they even exist in the feminine inside of men. And what I believe with every single cell of my body is that we have an urgent task in front of us, an incredible opportunity. And the opportunity is to use the power of communication technology to truly connect and unleash the collective feminine intelligence across our planet. It's the greatest untapped resource in our world, and we have this moment to do it right now. And that's what I've been obsessed with, of how to do just that. So I would say I've been a bit of a crazy scientist in a media laboratory figuring out just how do we create this communication design to truly connect women around the world and bring them a greater global voice. And so tonight I'm going to tell you a little bit about my journey of doing that, but in the process, how I found my own voice and some of the incredible women that I've met around the world who've changed my life. And to tell you that this is available to you and how it can change your life as well. So my story starts, this is actually a very sacred spot for me. I grew up in rural Wisconsin. I was homeschooled. And this is behind the barn, our family's barn. And I was very shy. I felt very isolated, actually paralyzingly shy. And this was my spot to go, where I'd lay down a blanket and I would hold my books and I would escape into another world. I'd feel connected to the rest of the world. And I had a yearning. I realized I had a global soul. So at 19, I took off and I went to the Amazon. And I ended up working with indigenous women who were struggling with oil contamination across all of their traditional lands, and their children were dying of cancer, skin cancer and stomach cancer. And then from there I went to Burma and worked with women refugees who were fleeing the ethnic cleansing. Their villages were being bombed, their children were being killed. And I realized that I wanted to become a journalist. But everywhere I went, I met more and more incredible women who kept asking me the same thing: will you please be our messenger? Will you please tell the world? And at a certain point, I realized I had this, oh my God, this moment of recognition that I didn't merely want to be a journalist anymore. I wanted to create a media source where these women could be their own messengers for the world and that they could speak for themselves. But I was so shy. I had no idea how to do this. I had no resources. I grew up on food stamps. And I held it inside until I was 28. And I took this huge, huge leap because there was this voice that wouldn't go away in my brain, and I kept looking out and seeing what I call these 3 unstoppable trends. And I saw the future. And the first unstoppable trend is that women's leadership is rising all over the world. It's absolutely unstoppable. Business, politics, religion, you name it. But the problem is, it's not happening fast enough. The New York Times says it's going to be another 500 years before women have a leadership equality. We don't have that kind of time with what's going on the planet right now. Enter the great accelerator, the communication revolution. Everywhere in the world, women are now using the power of technology to access information on market rates, to build movements, to track harassment, etc. It's not going away. It's only growing. And the last unstoppable trend is this shift in consciousness about the feminine power. So we're seeing the Dalai Lama talking about it. We're seeing Oprah talking about it. We even have the World Bank, the IMF, the economists saying, forget China, forget India. It's women who are the fastest growing, rising economic force. So I saw right in the center of all that what would be possible with World Pulse. So today we have a network of over 60,000 women from 190 countries who are connecting, who are exchanging resources, stories, from very, very rural villages, from conflict zones, from cafes in Kansas City to internet cafes in Afghanistan, and starting to feel not so alone. And it's amazing to look at this dream come true, but it wasn't always easy. I can tell you that. It was hard, and I had many, many nights of thinking, I don't think this is going to happen, or I don't think I can do this. And one of those nights happened when we first launched the website, and we were beta testing it. I had no idea if it was going to work or not, and actually, a lot of people told me that I was crazy. And people were telling me that my vision was too big, and that I should scale it back. And I thought, I don't know, this is gonna work. And I was up late, 2 a.m., and I was tired, I was exhausted. But at the same time, I couldn't turn away from the computer screen because women were coming on, particularly from Kenya, where there was mass political instability, there was gunfire in the streets, their homes were being burned, and they were logging on and they were writing. And they were saying, hello, hello, is anybody there? Please tell me I'm not lost. Please help me. And so our team was writing them back, etc. And then suddenly I got a little Skype beep on my screen, a little beep. And I looked, and it was a woman, a widow from Kenya who was HIV positive, who's rearing 5 children, who I had been talking with before. She'd found my Skype address as a founder. And she's typed, Jensine, you're up too late. You must zoom off to bed. You must rest. And then she said, don't worry. We're carrying the pulse. Carrying the pulse. We're carrying the flame. Please rest. And I can't even describe what it felt like. It was this relief of realizing that my dream was her dream too, and that while I slept, she was going to carry it on the other side of the planet. And I knew at that moment that I was never going to stop. For the women like her, for the most silenced, for the most invisible, no matter how hard it was, I was never going to stop because their dreams were actually bigger than my dreams, and when we connected, the dream was going to be even bigger. And I never would have dreamed that today, Leah is now my friend. I visited her in Kenya, and she's come to the United States. She's gotten incredible speaking engagements, awards. She's gotten scholarships just from being connected online. I never would have dreamed that I would have, in any country in the world, I could go and have a sofa to sleep on or a bed, that any woman would open up her home to me. I'd have millions of friends everywhere. And I never would have dreamed that women who are risking their lives in other parts of the world would say to me, if I die, if someone kills me, will you please take care of my daughter? That kind of connection and power I didn't dream was possible, but it is. And it's available to each of you in your own way. But Leah wasn't the only woman who changed my life. There's countless of others who showed me what's possible. And I'll share just a couple of those with you, and they include Nema Namadamu from the Democratic Republic of Congo, most silenced region of the world, 2% internet access, 150 times more likely to be raped than in the United States. Nema has polio, born with polio, but she came onto our site and she started talking about what's happening in the Congo. And she got so empowered connecting and realizing what she could do that she actually started a cyber cafe. And there were 3 butts per seats in line out the door, and they were fighting for the computers. And today she's created a movement. It's called the Mama Suja, which means hero women in Swahili, which has grown to hundreds and hundreds of women across her region. But they didn't stop there. The women started they decided they wanted to write the White House because the rebels were coming, so they started an online petition. We showed them how to do that. They got 100,000 signatures, and soon enough, the White House called us, and we sat down with Obama's National Security Division, and within a couple of months, they appointed a U.S. Special Envoy and said it was because they had heard from the women from the Congo who had requested this that had influenced them to make this decision. And then we have incredible women like Stella Paul, who was a survivor of a female infanticide. She has a scar on her throat from where they tried to kill her as a baby girl child. But today, her goal is to train over 10,000 women in India to use digital media to change their lives, and she trained sex workers and trash pickers how to use their cell phones to free each other from trafficking, and how to write their elected officials so that their voice is heard on the issues. We have Chivan Lena from Cameroon, who escaped the practice of breast ironing, which affects 3 to 4 million girls in Cameroon. It's a horrific practice where mothers and grandmothers take hot coconut shells or stones and they pulverize the breast tissue of their daughters. But they do it out of love. They're trying to protect their daughters from the high rates of sexual violence. Lena escaped this practice, and she decided she was going to become a crusader for it, and she came onto World Pulse, spoke out, and her story got picked up by CNN and went to #1 on their site. Suddenly, she was making headlines around the world, and people said, oh my God. Somebody gave her an award, $10,000. With just $10,000, she launched this incredible campaign across the country in hair salons and schools, where she's reached over 20,000 women and girls who have vowed now to stop the practice of breast ironing. And you can think about, it's not just the 20,000 women and girls, but all those unborn girls. And there they are in the church making the pledges and teaching each other. And in the streets, little girls raising the signs, don't pulverize my breast, I have a voice. And so many of these voices are rising. We're channeling them to different forums. CNN, women are running for office in Kenya and the Philippines because they've got this confidence. But I'm telling you, it's not about women out there. It's about us. And when we connect, something sparks in ourselves. And we're not going to, trust me, we're not going to get sucked dry by connecting to these women. We're going to get so full. And they're going to make you feel strong. And they're going to make you feel powerful and valued and seen. And they're going to love you. They're going to love your children. It's just this huge hug that's possible for us when we connect. And so many women are now traveling around the world and meeting in person, taking the technology connection offline. And I do believe, I call it the vocal uprising, because I do believe we're entering into a new era, and Chantal spoke to it so beautifully as well, that when we connect one by one, and then in mass force, we are going to break the silence. Women's voices are going to come out of the shadows and be deafening, and world leaders will no longer be able to ignore us. Together, we're going to overturn dictatorships. We're going to restore the planet. We're going to heal men and boys. And it's going to be this volcano of creative human potential that the world has never seen, that we don't even know, that we can't even imagine, that is going to forever shift the world and empower us all. Thank you.